I am Sarah Jenkins, age 29. On the day I wed the man I loved, the section reserved for my family at the ceremony remained entirely, agonizingly vacant. My father wasn't there to escort me, my mother wasn't wiping away tears, nor was my sister greeting me from the front row. Instead, there were only pristine white chairs and an unspoken quiet that resonated more powerfully than any musical accompaniment. Several hours prior to me donning my gown, my dad contacted me from an airport terminal, his tone sounding hurried, almost irritated. "We'll commemorate this event later, sweetie. You understand how things are. This journey was already scheduled." I could hear boarding calls and my sister's distinct laugh filtering through his phone in the background. The final message I received from her before my walk down the aisle depicted shimmering blue ocean and her legs propped up in a beach lounger. "Getaway, so excited. Have a wonderful wedding, sis." While my husband's relatives occupied their seats, cheering and applauding, my section appeared as desolate as a deserted scene post-event. I remained there, gazing at the unoccupied chairs, feigning that my heart wasn't aching. On that very day, something within me subtly fractured. I didn't shout. I didn't have a tantrum. I observed. I internalized. And I began meticulously documenting everything, both tangible and emotional. Roughly 2 months subsequently, those very individuals who had prioritized the Maldives over me contacted me, their voices carrying a distinct inflection, pleading for me to travel for her significant occasion at an upscale resort. They anticipated I would appear, offer a pleasant smile, and once more fulfill the role of the overlooked child. They were completely unaware of the extent of my transformation. Before I recount my dad's remarks that evening and the events that unfolded once I took the microphone at my sister's wedding, please share your current time and location from where you're viewing this. My aim is to gauge the reach of this narrative concerning familial limits and retribution. I work as an emergency room nurse in Atlanta, accustomed to pandemonium, emergency signals, alerts, and individuals shouting instructions simultaneously. My profession equips me to maintain composure when others are losing theirs. Yet, no aspect of my work prepared me for the profound, silent anguish experienced when your own relatives choose a holiday over your wedding, essentially abandoning you. Throughout my childhood, I was always conscious that my father had a preferred child. He operates a thriving construction business, Mitchell & Sons Custom Homes, known for grand residences, prominent clientele, and a substantial ego. In both religious settings and the wider community, he embodies the ideal family patriarch, the individual who delivers speeches about diligence and prioritizing family. Within our home, however, family first typically translated to Olivia first. My younger sister, 3 years my junior, was the favored one, with captivating eyes and a larger social media presence. I was the diligent sibling, achieving academic excellence, securing scholarships, and working night shifts at the hospital. She was the lively one. She was the one my dad flew to Miami for her 21st birthday, while simultaneously telling me, "You're resilient. You don't require all of that." Upon my engagement, I harbored hope that this occasion might unfold differently. My father treated me to lunch at a steakhouse, then produced a leather checkbook and, as if it were a trifle, penned a substantial check for my wedding expenditures. "You've merited this, Lauren," he declared. "And rest assured, we're reserving that entire weekend. Nothing takes precedence over me walking you down the aisle." I put my faith in his words. I truly wished to. For several months, I forwarded pictures of potential venues, gowns, and inspirational mood boards to my parents and Olivia. My fiancé, James, a firefighter, courteously inquired in the family group chat regarding suit shades and rehearsal dinner schedules. Most of the time, there was no response whatsoever. 3 weeks before the wedding, K.H. Lowe shared a countdown on her Instagram story. Maui Bachelorette content trip in 3 weeks. I fixated on my phone. The specified dates coincided exactly with my wedding weekend. When I questioned my mom concerning it, she responded, "Oh, darling, it's merely a couple of days. We'll manage to make it work. Don't be theatrical." My dad later messaged, "We've already committed deposits. I'll return in time, relax. I attempted to calm down. I convinced myself they wouldn't actually go through with it. On the eve of the wedding, James and I were in our compact apartment finalizing the last-minute arrangements. He was pressing his shirt as I browsed Pinterest, struggling to hold back tears. A notification appeared on his phone, resting on the coffee table, showing a snippet of a new message in the Mitchell family group chat. "Would you like me to open that?" he inquired. "I never check that," I stated acrimoniously. "Feel free." He unlocked his device, and his expression transformed instantaneously. First confusion, then disbelief, followed by anger. "Lauren, you need to see this," he murmured. His screen displayed a series of images: my dad in a first-class seat, holding champagne, my mom wearing a wide-brimmed hat, Olivia posing with her passport alongside a caption that read, "When your family picks a tropical atmosphere over anxiety. Maldives, here we come. Family first." The timestamp on the boarding photograph indicated it was taken 2 hours before my rehearsal dinner. No phone call, no apology, just a casual update. My heart plunged so intensely that I experienced physical sickness. "Perhaps it's a stopover," I whispered, desperately trying to find an explanation. However, a video then began playing automatically, featuring Olivia squealing, "Next stop, Maldives. Apologies, Lauren. We'll video call you from the shoreline." This was succeeded by my dad's voice in the background, lightheartedly saying, "We'll be with you in spirit." James looked at me, his jaw clenched. "If my family were doing this to you, what would your advice be to me?" I remained silent, as we both recognized I would instruct him to sever ties with them. "Be frank with me. If you witnessed your fiancé's family literally flying across an ocean rather than driving 20 minutes to your wedding, would you still proceed down the aisle with hopes of their appearance? Or would you already be formulating your departure plan?" I still prepared myself. Emergency room nurses are skilled at operating mechanically. You can be suffering internally and still secure an IV, still announce a medical emergency, and still maintain steady hands. On the morning of my wedding, I applied my own makeup with an identical, almost robotic concentration. Mascara, cover-up, lip color. I disregarded the trembling. I ignored the vacant message history from Mom. I dismissed the unopened text from Dad that merely stated, "Reception might be unstable. We'll connect later." James's mother tapped on the door of the bridal suite. "Darling, it's time," she announced, her eyes glistening with sentiment. I mustered a smile, clutched my floral arrangement, and proceeded towards the church doors. The music commenced, the doors swung open. I emerged and instantly perceived it. To the left, James's contingent was densely packed, his siblings, cousins, and lifelong friends. They rose, applauding, cheering, and radiating joy first at him, then at me. To the right, my section consisted of 2 hospital colleagues, my university roommate, and 3 vacant rows marked with white cards stating, "Bride's family." All those chairs, flawlessly aligned, seemed to gaze back at me like teeth in a speechless mouth. My knees nearly gave way. James observed it as well, his gaze clouded with a mixture of rage and sorrow. We converged at the altar, and he gripped my hand so firmly that my knuckles throbbed. "You look stunning," he murmured. "You and I, that is sufficient." I nodded, knowing that if I uttered a word, I would break down crying. The officiant initiated the service, and just as he reached the question, "Who gives this woman to be married?" A boisterous peal of laughter abruptly broke through the audio system. Initially, I mistook it for audio interference. Then I distinctly heard it. Ocean waves in the distance, the chime of glasses, and my sister's shrill voice proclaiming, "Guys, observe this water. It's truly extraordinary." The entire assembly pivoted towards the rear of the room, where the sound control area was located. The DJ and the church's technical assistant were frantically manipulating wires, staring intently at a phone placed on speaker. Projected onto the screen, visible to the congregation due to some oversight by the technician, was my dad wearing sunglasses, holding a drink, positioned on a deck above clear blue water. "Happy wedding day, darling." He yelled into the phone, completely unaware that his image now spanned 20 feet on the projector. "We're joining you from the Maldives. We'll celebrate properly later when things are less hectic here. Show her the beach, KH Low. The camera then swiveled to my sister, clad in a bikini and a white cover-up, striking a pose with a mimosa. This vacation is too exciting, sis. We'll reshare your pictures. She let out a giggle, playfully flipping her hair. A cough escaped someone in the audience. Another person mumbled, "This has to be a joke." Instantly, I detected murmurs spreading. That's her family. They're calling in from their trip. James's mother, seated in the front row, shielded her mouth in shock. The technician eventually disconnected the phone from the system, silencing it, but the harm had already occurred. The officiant cleared his throat, visibly discomposed. "Shall we proceed?" He inquired softly. I gazed at James. His jaw was so tightly set that I could observe a muscle spasm. "We can halt," he whispered. "We don't need to complete this today." "No," I responded, astonishing both him and myself. We had pledged to each other, let's simply see this through for our sake. I felt a sense of disengagement, as if I were floating above myself while we exchanged our vows. I vowed to love and treasure him. He pledged to remain by my side. The periphery of the room became indistinct, save for those 3 unoccupied rows seared into my memory and the lingering image of my dad's absurd sunglasses. When the officiant ultimately declared, "You may kiss the bride," the ensuing applause felt sparse and uneasy. As we made our way back up the aisle, James leaned close and whispered, "I promise you, Lauren, they will never treat you this way again." While the attendees made their way to the courtyard for pictures, I quietly moved into a side corridor, retrieved my phone, and accessed the family group chat. The Maui videos were still present, along with screen captures of KH Low's Instagram story. A looping video of my dad toasting with the caption, "When your family's notion of support is sending positive energy from across the sea family first." I meticulously saved every image, every video, and every caption. I wasn't certain how at that moment, but I was resolute that a day of reckoning would come. If your relatives publicly shamed you on a massive screen during your wedding, would you challenge them immediately, or would you bide your time, amass evidence, and retaliate when they least anticipated it? The subsequent reception was delightful for all other guests, adorned with string lights, serving excellent food, featuring James's friends dancing spiritedly, and his cousins delivering sincere tributes about his unwavering care for them. Each instance someone referred to family. A subtle tremor resonated within my chest. When the moment arrived for the parental speeches, James's father rose, cleared his throat, and stated, "I never had the opportunity to raise a daughter, but today I feel as though we've gained one." The room collectively murmured, "Oh, Frank." I offered a smile, yet my eyes welled up. My designated microphone remained unused. During a pause in the music, James and I quietly stepped outside for some fresh air. We stood directly outside the premises beneath a canopy of lights, with the soft echo of laughter gently wafting from within. "Are you all right?" he inquired. I laughed, though devoid of amusement. My father quite literally intruded upon my wedding photos from a different continent. "What's your assessment?" He reached into his inner pocket and retrieved his phone. "You should also witness this," he remarked, referring to KH Low's public Instagram. A picture had been uploaded less than an hour after our vows. My family in swim attire gathered around a candlelit table on the beach, with my dad at the center, raising a glass of champagne. The caption read, "To my beloved girl finally enjoying her dream trip to the Maldives with the greatest family on earth." Family first wouldn't miss it for the world. The timestamp coincided almost precisely with the exact moment James and I were exchanging our wedding bands. I fixated on the screen until the visual became indistinct. "Wouldn't miss it for anything," I reiterated, my voice devoid of inflection. I recalled every childhood instance when my dad skipped my school performances, my nursing school commencement, and my first apartment move, consistently offering the same excuse. "We'll commemorate it later, Sadie. You know I'm preoccupied." "I'm finished extending the benefit of the doubt," I stated softly. They made their decision. James assented. "Then we make our own, we'll cultivate our own family. You, me, and anyone who respects us. At that instant, something within me solidified. My anger dissipated, transforming into a feeling that was more incisive, more definite. Boundaries, repercussions. I don't wish to yell at them, I articulated. I want them to experience, for once, what it's like to be an outsider looking in. The following day, my phone was inundated with messages. My mom's read, "Darling, the internet connection was dreadful. We are truly sorry we couldn't attend. The live call was our attempt to participate." My dad's message stated, "You're overreacting. We informed you about this journey. Don't jeopardize your marriage over a single weekend." Olivia's message was, "Sis, it was simply unfortunate timing. You know I adore you. Please don't be upset, we watched the replay. You look stunning." I allowed all their messages to remain unread. For the first time in my existence, the quiet was unequivocally mine. Weeks went by. My work occupied my time. James and I adapted to our married existence. We shared grocery lists, established laundry routines, watched Netflix late at night, and his firefighting uniform hung drying over the shower rod. Occasionally, I would encounter one of my dad's commercials on local television. Mitchell and Sons, constructing residences, fostering families. I would scoff and silence the television. Then, approximately 6 weeks after the wedding, on a Tuesday evening, James entered the living room with his laptop open, an unusual expression on his face. "Lauren, you need to witness this," he reiterated, that particular phrase evolving into a recurring motif in our marital life. Displayed on the screen was an internal company email, clearly forwarded to him anonymously. It was directed to all Mitchell and Sons personnel, with a note at the bottom indicating it was forwarded by Anonymous. The main content of the email, sent from my dad to his accountant 3 days prior to my wedding, read, "Regarding the Maldives retreat charge, kindly categorize this under Client Development Staff Retreat. We will expense it this quarter. And yes, deduct the funds from the discretionary budget we allocated instead of Lauren's wedding contribution. I will compensate her at a later time." My stomach churned. The very check he had presented to me at the steakhouse, accompanied by the sentiment, "You've earned this," he had quite literally reallocated to finance his island holiday. This was no longer merely emotional neglect, it was a calculated financial betrayal. Therefore, he reclaimed your wedding funds to cover the expense of the trip he prioritized over your wedding, James articulated slowly, and subsequently accused you of being melodramatic for your distress. I nodded, my jaw firmly set. He converted my wedding into a tax deduction. That evening, I created a new folder on my laptop and began transferring all relevant files into it. Screenshots of messages, video clips from the ceremony, KH Lowe's social media updates, and the email James had recently shown me. I titled the folder Family First Evidence. For the first time, this didn't resemble trivial record-keeping. It felt like assembling a legal dossier. Individuals consistently advised to forgive and forget. But inform me, when someone transforms your most significant day into an item on their expense ledger, is forgetting truly sagacious, or does it simply convey to them that there will be no repercussions? Roughly 2 months following the wedding, on a serene Sunday morning, my phone vibrated with an incoming video call from my mother. I nearly declined instinctively, but my curiosity ultimately prevailed. I accepted the call, and her face filled the display. Impeccably made up, bathed in gentle light, wearing that practiced maternal smile I had known for years of her placating my father. "Hello, dear," she chirped with excessive cheerfulness. "Do you have a moment? Your dad and Olivia are also present." My chest constricted. "What is happening?" I inquired. The camera retracted. My dad waved from their living room sofa, dressed in a polo shirt bearing his company's insignia. Olivia sat cross-legged on the rug in a white romper, a ring conspicuously sparkling on her finger. "Surprise!" she shrieked, raising her left hand. "I've gotten engaged." I gazed at the screen. "So soon?" I questioned. She had been casually seeing someone named Jackson during her Maui trip. I wasn't aware they were serious. "He proposed on the very beach where we viewed the rerun of your ceremony." she stated, as though it were a poignant detail rather than a perverse one. It felt like a complete cycle. "We have some thrilling updates," my dad interjected. "We're organizing the wedding in the Maldives. The identical resort, the same overwater bungalows, a genuine destination event. And naturally, we all concurred that it wouldn't be perfect without you and James joining us." My mom's smile wavered. "We genuinely wish to rectify things, darling," she appended. "This will serve as our opportunity to reunite, won't it?" I nearly laughed aloud. The identical resort, the same location where they had celebrated my sister while I wept in a church corridor. "Who is financing this?" I asked pointedly. They all blinked in unison. "Well, we're taking care of the majority of the costs," my dad explained. "You and James would merely need to arrange your flights. And, we considered it symbolic to utilize the initial wedding budget we had designated, as though distributing it between you two girls. Equitable, wouldn't you say?" A surge of pure, intense fury coursed through me. They had already expended that money on their previous vacation. Now, they intended to feign its availability, relabeling it as a magnanimous gesture. "We're sending you the formal invitation video," K.H. Lowe interjected, oblivious. "We'd like you to deliver a speech, Lauren, a sort of big sister blessing vibe. It will look so lovely for the recordings." Subsequent to our call, the formal invitation materialized. A professionally crafted compilation featuring aerial shots of crystal-clear water, slow-motion clips of K.H. Lowe and Jackson laughing in hammocks, and voiceovers discussing fresh starts and familial ties that even separation cannot sever. The concluding frame presented K.H. Lowe and Jackson, Maldives, save the date, highlighting special guest of honor, maid of honor, and big sister Lauren. I nearly shattered my phone. James returned home from work to find me seated on the sofa. The video was paused mid-scene, K.H. Lowe's expression fixed in an immaculate influencer's smile. "So," he stated, depositing his keys into the dish, "I presume you received the invitation." I nodded. They expect me to consecrate her marriage in the exact location where they celebrated her absence from mine, utilizing the very funds he diverted from my wedding to finance their initial getaway. James settled next to me. "We are not obligated to attend," he offered. I fixated on the screen for an extended period. "No," I responded deliberately. "We are going." He furrowed his brow. "We are. For 29 years, I've permitted them to dictate my narrative." I stated, the unnoticed child, the compassionate one, the nurse who comprehends when they're occupied. At my wedding, they revealed their true selves to everyone, and I endured it. If I fail to address this, they will persist as if nothing occurred. They'll label anyone who resists as unappreciative. They'll speak of family while treating individuals as mere accessories. I opened my laptop, accessed the Family First Evidence folder, and commenced organizing its contents into subfolders: wedding, Maldives trip, money, public image. James observed silently. "What exactly are you doing?" He eventually questioned. "They desire projection screens and speeches," I declared. "I intend to deliver precisely that to them." I reserved 2 economy-class flights using our personal funds. I secured a standard room at the resort for us, not one of the luxurious overwater villas they had booked for their immediate family. I acquired a strikingly vibrant red dress that evoked the sensation of being a cautionary signal. Furthermore, I emailed the resort's event planner, identifying myself as the bride's sister and maid of honor, inquiring if it would be possible to upload a special surprise tribute video onto their audiovisual system the day before the ceremony. She responded within a few hours. "Certainly, we adore surprises. Simply provide it on a USB drive." I titled the file Family First Tribute Final, MPP4, and for the first time in weeks, I genuinely smiled. If your family extended an invitation to the exact location where they disgraced you, then offered you a microphone and granted you access to their projector, would you maintain your composure? Or would you ultimately activate the playback? The Maldives truly lives up to its Instagram aesthetic. yet it feels equally surreal when your arrival is for a mission of vengeance rather than a romantic honeymoon. As our seaplane glided across water that appeared digitally enhanced, James gently squeezed my hand. "Final opportunity to withdraw," he stated. "We could inform them you fell ill and pass the week relaxing on the sand, avoiding everyone." "I've been unwell for several months," I replied. "This is my path to recovery." Upon arrival at the resort's jetty, my family stood waiting, resembling a welcoming delegation. My father was dressed in linen, my mother in a flowing floral maxi dress, and Olivia wore a white two-piece ensemble that gave her the appearance of being. Olivia looked as if she were posing for a wedding publication. Next to her was Jackson, a tall, attractive, and courteous man who evidently remained captivated by the idealized family story presented to him. "Lauren," my mother exclaimed, embracing me as though our communication over the past weeks had been limited to awkward, superficial messages. I returned her hug, somewhat rigidly. "You look wonderful," my dad remarked, giving me a brief side embrace and patting my shoulder, reminiscent of how he'd treat a client who had just finalized a deal. From this closer vantage, I noticed additional gray strands in his hair and more subtle wrinkles around his eyes, yet his familiar, polished charisma remained. "We're truly pleased you made it, sweetheart. Your presence means a great deal." "Does it?" I inquired, a hint of amusement in my tone. His smile wavered slightly but held firm. Olivia began to bounce lightly. "Sadie, that dress is absolutely stunning." She effused. "You'll be incredible on camera. I've already informed the videographer. You're essentially our emotional linchpin, you know, the big sister, healing old wounds, all that stuff." "Old wounds," I echoed. "Right." Resort staff offered us refreshing towels and fresh coconut water. We then settled into our relatively simple room, which, while superior to any previous accommodations I'd experienced, bore no resemblance to the luxurious overwater bungalows visible from our window. Naturally, my parents and Chloe occupied those grander suites, sharing room tour online later that evening. Prior to dinner, I met with the event planner in the reception hall, a glass-encased structure facing the ocean, designated for both the ceremony and reception. "Here's the USB," I stated, passing it to her. "It contains a compilation of childhood videos, photographs, and greetings from friends and family back home. Only one part of that description was accurate." "Excellent," she responded, inserting the drive into the laptop linked to the projector. "We'll start it when your speech begins. Just give the DJ a nod when you're prepared." She pressed play to preview the content. The initial segments, featuring innocuous childhood pictures of Chloe and me in identical pajamas, clips my mother had provided over the years, played accompanied by gentle music. I had deliberately chosen these to create a deceptive sense of calm. "This looks wonderful," the coordinator commented, pausing it before the less favorable content appeared. The wedding day itself was a hazy mix of warmth and anxiety. Chloe's ceremony, held on the waterfront deck, resembled a Pinterest vision made real. White blossoms, sheer fabric draping softly in the wind, and attendees dressed in gentle pastel hues and high-end sunglasses. My father escorted her down the aisle, beaming like the ideal father while drones hummed above, documenting every perspective. James's hand in mine offered a steadying presence. As the vows were exchanged, I observed Chloe pledging unwavering support to Jackson, making an effort to suppress any visible reaction to the profound irony of her words. Following their kiss and the showering of flower petals, we transitioned into the pavilion for the celebratory reception. Tables gleamed with crystal and candlelight. A large screen positioned behind the main bridal table continuously displayed a slideshow of Chloe and Jackson's engagement photos. Indeed, many of these had been captured during their initial trip to Maui. Each image served as a stark reminder of their whereabouts on my own wedding day. At our assigned table, some guests engaged in polite conversation. "So, Lauren, what do you do back in Atlanta?" one of Jackson's relatives inquired. "I work as an emergency room nurse," I replied. "I tend to individuals when those who should have protected them failed." The relative chuckled courteously, not fully comprehending the underlying message. My mother glided past, gently touching my shoulder. "Darling, you'll speak directly before your father's toast after dinner," she instructed. "Keep it light and pleasant, all right. This is a joyous occasion." I offered a faint smile. "I'll deliver a heartfelt speech," I vowed. As dinner concluded, the DJ announced, "And now, a special address from our maid of honor, the bride's older sister, Lauren." Applause filled the room. Chloe radiated a bright smile from her seat, her eyes already teary, clearly anticipating an emotional, conciliatory speech that she could later edit for her social media audience. I rose, straightened my red gown, and proceeded to the middle of the dance floor. The projector behind me transitioned from the standard slideshow to a blank screen, awaiting my signal. My gaze swept across the multitude of faces. My parents' acquaintances, my father's business associates, Jackson's relatives, and resort employees holding trays. I grasped the microphone. "Hello, everyone," I commenced, my voice unexpectedly firm. For those unfamiliar with me, I'm Lauren, the elder sister. I'm also the sole individual here who has witnessed Olivia and my parents when they're not performing for an audience. A few light laughs rippled through the room. Olivia let out a strained giggle. "Firstly, I must say, Olivia, you look stunning," I proceeded. "And Jackson, you appear to be a truly decent person. Because of this, I believe it would be unjust not to share the complete narrative of how we arrived at this moment." A subtle unease pervaded the room. Chairs groaned. My father's smile began to contort into something closer to a scowl. I gave a discreet nod to the DJ. The screen behind me illuminated. Childhood photographs flashed into view, a young Olivia smeared with cake, myself pushing her on a swing. "We were raised in a home where family first was practically our mantra," I narrated over the images. "At least, that's what we always told others." The montage on screen changed. A still image appeared, the vacant rows reserved for the bride's family at my wedding. Guests occupied the foreground, with a glaring emptiness behind them. Gasps spread throughout the hall. "2 months ago," I went on, "I married my best friend in Atlanta. You won't find those pictures in these presentations because my family simply wasn't present." The subsequent clip automatically started playing. It was a video of my father and Olivia, displayed on the enormous screen in our church, him wearing sunglasses, her in a bikini, shouting joyful greetings from the Maldives. Their voices reverberated loudly through the pavilion's sound system. "Happy wedding day, sweetheart. We'll celebrate with you later. This vacation couldn't wait, sis." Laughter echoed in the video. In the reception hall, however, no one was laughing anymore. I turned my head slightly to observe my parents' expressions. My mother's hand covered her mouth. Olivia stood motionless, her eyes wide, mascara already beginning to run. My father, beneath his tan, had become noticeably pale. While my husband and I exchanged our marriage vows before 3 unoccupied rows, I stated, my family was right here at this resort, transforming their absence into social media fodder. The following slide appeared, Chloe's social media post, featuring the hashtags FamilyFirst and Wouldn't Miss It 4th World, magnified on the screen. Some of my father's business partners leaned in, narrowing their eyes. One murmured something to another, shaking his head in disapproval. Then an email flashed up. I had blacked out the accountant's name, but kept my father's visible. The projector zoomed in on the crucial sentences as I recited them aloud. "Please categorize this as client development staff retreat. We will expense it this quarter. And yes, deduct it from the discretionary funds we allocated, rather than Lauren's wedding contribution. I will compensate her later." The silence was so profound, you could have heard a pin drop. "So, Jackson," I addressed my new brother-in-law, turning to face him. "When they speak of family first, I want you to understand its true implication. It meant transforming my wedding into a tax deduction. It meant raising a glass to your fiancé on a beach while simultaneously dismissing my pain as dramatic." My father abruptly stood up. "Lauren, that's enough." He barked, his voice low yet distinctly audible. "Turn that off." I raised a hand. "You've cultivated your public image for decades, Dad. Your commercials, your addresses, your family man persona. Tonight, we're simply presenting the other side of the narrative. Behind me, the presentation shifted to a split screen. On one side, one of his local television advertisements played, showing him in a hard hat, declaring, "At Mitchell & Sons, family isn't merely a term, it's our bedrock." The other side displayed a zoomed-in screenshot of the financial entry. Maui Retreat classified as client development, charged to family wedding budget. Several guests rose, whispering amongst themselves. One of his most significant clients, a prominent local developer, gazed at the screen, his lips tightly compressed. "You're attempting to destroy my reputation, Lauren," my dad accused, over a mere scheduling conflict. I let out a single, sharp laugh. This isn't about scheduling. This is about a recurring pattern where you consistently prioritize appearances over genuine substance. It's about you dismissing my suffering as inconsequential, while you literally profited from my wedding. Olivia finally found her voice. "Lauren, this is my wedding." She cried out, "You're humiliating me." I looked at her, truly looked, and saw fear and shame, yet also a continued lack of understanding regarding her own culpability. "I'm not doing anything, Olivia," I said softly. "I'm merely pressing play." For a prolonged moment, the room was suspended in an uneasy silence, teetering on the brink. Then, from the main table, Jackson slowly rose. He shifted his gaze from the screen to Olivia, then to my parents, and finally back to me. "Is this accurate?" he inquired, his voice quiet but unwavering. "Did you all genuinely miss her wedding to be here, and then fund it with her designated money?" My father opened his mouth. "It's far more complex than that." "No, it's not," I interrupted. "You have the proof, Jackson, the literal receipts." Olivia reached for his arm. "Darling, it was simply a matter of timing. We discussed it, remember? They had everything under control back home, and I needed content." She trailed off, comprehending mid-sentence how her words sounded when spoken aloud. Jackson slowly withdrew his arm. "You assured me your sister understood," he stated. "That she was perfectly all right with it, that she was cool." His eyes shifted to mine. I met his gaze. "I spent my wedding day feigning contentment so they wouldn't label me ungrateful," I clarified. "I was anything but fine." The developer client I had observed earlier spoke up from his table. "Richard, is that your company's credit card detailed in that email?" he demanded. My father's jaw tightened. "This is a private affair," he responded. "We ought to discuss this discreetly." "You made it public the moment you utilized corporate funds and subsequently boasted about family values in your marketing," the man retorted. "We'll be in contact once we return to Atlanta." He rose, gestured to his wife, and exited. Two other men, recognizable from my father's television commercials, followed suit. My father's shoulders slumped, his carefully constructed facade crumbling for the first time in my memory. "Lauren, please," my mother pleaded, tears now flowing freely. "We can resolve this. Turn it off. We'll speak later." I swallowed with difficulty. A part of me, the child long accustomed to their expectations, wished to comply, to pacify her, to offer reassurance. However, then I recalled the vacant seats, the echoing sound of my sister's voice intruding on my vows, and that damning line in the email about, "I'll make it up to her later." I lifted the microphone for a final time. "Here's the truth," I stated softly, my voice resonating through the hushed hall. "For years, I convinced myself that familial ties inherently guaranteed loyalty, that I ought to be thankful for any meager acknowledgement, and that establishing boundaries was a sign of disrespect. Yet the ordinary individuals I encounter in my emergency room at 3 in the morning have shown me more about genuine family than you ever have. The ones who appear when needed. The ones who spend an entire night in uncomfortable plastic chairs simply to be present when someone regains consciousness. Family isn't defined by those who photograph well. It's defined by those who stand by you when there's no opportunity for a social media update. I turned towards Olivia. "I don't hate you," I declared. "I simply refuse to continue pretending that this family dynamic is acceptable. Someday, if you have a daughter, I hope you recall the sensation of those empty chairs and make a different choice." Then, addressing my parents, "You prioritized a trip over me. You prioritized a tax deduction over my wedding. You prioritized appearances over integrity. Tonight, I chose myself. I returned the microphone to the DJ. You can stop the video now, I instructed him. He complied. The screen dimmed to black. James was already waiting by the exit as I stepped off the dance floor. We didn't rush or make a scene. We simply departed. No theatrical exit, no doors slammed shut. Just two individuals calmly walking away from a conflagration we hadn't ignited, but had at last ceased to deny was raging. In the corridor outside, he cradled my face in his hands. I am incredibly proud of you, he affirmed. I exhaled, trembling. It feels as though I've just torn out my own foundations, I whispered. Perhaps, he responded, but now there's space for new growth. Over the following week, the consequences rapidly unfolded. By the time James and I returned to Atlanta, 3 of my father's most significant clients had withdrawn their business. Whispers of an internal audit circulated. His carefully crafted image as a family man suffered when an anonymous individual, certainly not me, forwarded an edited version of the Maui video call and the photograph of the empty wedding chairs to a local journalist who had previously highlighted his values-based leadership. Initially, my parents telephoned incessantly, leaving lengthy voicemails that blended apologies with bitter accusations. You caught us off guard. You shamed us. You ruined your sister's special day. Gradually, the calls became less frequent, then ceased altogether. There was no grand reunion, no communal embrace, just an enduring quiet. And truthfully, for the first time, that silence felt like serenity, rather than a penalty. I intensified my commitment to therapy, to my marriage, and to the friendships that had silently sustained me throughout this period. This included colleagues who had occupied those seats at my wedding, James's mother who called every Sunday just to converse, and neighbors who delivered casseroles when both James and I worked night shifts. Slowly, I constructed the life I had always desired, a network of individuals who supported me out of genuine affection, not for the benefit of an audience. Some online commentators might argue, you took it too far. You shouldn't expose family matters publicly. Perhaps that holds true for their families, but in my family's case, public perception had been their tool for manipulation for years. All I did was withdraw my compliance. If you're currently listening and have been labeled too sensitive for expecting fundamental respect, or dramatic for experiencing pain when others disappoint you, here's a difficult lesson I learned. Establishing boundaries is not an act of disloyalty. You have the right to declare, this is unacceptable, even to your parents. You are permitted to disengage from family members who only appear when it serves their interests. You are entitled to forge a life with individuals who intentionally choose to be part of it. I didn't experience the traditional father of the bride moment I had envisioned. Instead, I gained something different, the profound understanding that my inherent value is not subject to a family consensus. So now I'm curious. If you were in my situation, would you have played that video, or would you have withheld it to preserve their reputation? And have you ever had to prioritize your well-being over a detrimental family dynamic? Please let me know your listening location. And if you feel comfortable, share your experience. Somewhere, someone needs to hear they aren't alone in moving past an unfulfilled expectation. From my viewpoint, this narrative transcends mere dramatic retaliation. It portrays a woman finally declining to accept a perpetual secondary role within her own family. Lauren's choice to reveal the truth might appear severe to some, yet it also highlights the strength found in establishing boundaries after years of being disregarded. Occasionally, true vindication lies in prioritizing yourself and disrupting a harmful pattern, rather than remaining silent. If you had been in her position, would you have acted similarly at the wedding? And have you ever felt like the overlooked child in your own household?